And for the final review of the Leeco S3, not to be confused with the Galaxy S3. So I was using this thing for almost a full week. I was not using it as a complete primary driver. I will state that now. I was using it as more of a media hub slash secondary setup, but I was using several workarounds to use it as technically a phone. But I have several different findings that are different than what Frankie's were for her Pro 3, which is the big brother to this phone. This phone, I found it being very interesting going from iPhone to Android, and I was carrying both of them throughout the week because of various reasons, but I was basically put back on several different things. One, button configuration. First off, I'm used to a rocker switch on this side for being able to put the phone into vibrate mode or whatever to be able to keep it from making noise and vibrate only. And the factor that the volume rockers and the sleep wake power button are opposite basically, or I should say are differently configured than the iPhone, because on the iPhone you have your sleep wake button right here and your volume rockers over here with your vibrate switch up top. So it was very difficult at times for me for a while to remember that my power button was down here and my volume rockers were right here. So I kept on noticing that I kept hitting volume up every time I was trying to put the phone to sleep or wake it up. But I got used to it after a little while, and I actually found myself after about 3 days realizing on my phone that I was getting used to it, and I actually looked for this button on my iPhone. So it was a little bit of a throwback, but I got used to it after a little while, so it's not really a huge gripe, but it was something that I was noticing. Um, I do have a list of different things that I had written out. So the button configuration was one of them. The camera. Whenever I was taking pictures with this thing, I had noticed several different drawbacks with it. I don't believe the S3 has image stabilization. Let me see if I can find my pictures real quick. Because whenever I was taking photos or videos with this thing, it was not like apparently I deleted the photos. It was not like stable. I was taking a picture, and unless I was very still, I was noticing that I wasn't getting clear shots. Like you could zoom in on the photo. This is a bad photo. I can't use that. And when I zoomed in, I could see the graininess of it, but I don't know if that's because I didn't tweak the camera enough or not. It may be a software fix. I don't know.
And one thing I do want to mention though is on low-end Android devices. This is not a low-end Android device, but it's priced the same as low-end competitors.
Oh, here we go.
But on most of these Android devices that are $150, you're going to notice the camera's going to be lacking some features. Usually image stabilization is something that's not included on a low-end device or a cheap device for that matter. And this phone is no exception.
This is actually one of the photos that I found that I did take. The camera itself was doing okay. I did notice that it didn't gather the background lighting very well, but it still got the front shot fine. But when I zoom in on it, you can tell that it kind of goes a little grainy. But I mean, you could still clearly see what it is. It's just not like 100%. I would give this camera probably a 5 or a 6 out of 10 for what it can do. Video quality, you don't want to be moving when you're shooting this thing because it's not very great at image stabilization. I don't know if I still have the photo.
I don't believe it even has image stabilization.
It probably doesn't. There's me making a funny face. But oh, here we go. Maybe these are. Yeah. So this one I shot of my daughter trying to do stuff on her pink dog looking thingy. This is a slow-mo video, I think, but you can see the camera bounce around a little bit, but I'm actually sitting down for this, so it actually worked out pretty well. So
it looks like the video camera's a lot better than the actual camera.
And then this was a slow-mo shot. I got bored and decided to try doing a slow-mo shot on something. I think it's only 120 frames per second because I've shot higher quality ones, but you can tell, like, I was trying to be as still as possible, but the camera was still, like, shaky, and I was kind of set back by that, but that's fine. Like I said, it's not meant to be a perfect camera by any means, but it's still great, and everyday users probably won't even notice it. But being that I am a power user on a lot of things, it was a little bit substandard to me. But either way, for the price, it's darn good for what it can do. Battery life. Now, like I said, I didn't have my carrier hooked up to this, so I only was using it technically as a media hub. But under heavy usage, and for people that know me, heavy usage mean I'm like Pokemon Go, Facebook, controlling my house, doing work stuff, GPS, the whole 9 yards. I pounded this thing like crazy, and I still got a minimum of a workday's 8 hours battery life out of it, which is phenomenal. My phone, if I push it super hard, I can have the battery killed in 6 hours, which is saying something, because this has got a 3,000 milliamp hour battery in it, and the iPhone 6s Plus has, I believe, a 2700, just a little bit more than 2700 milliamp hour battery. So this has got slightly bigger battery in it, but not by much. But the factor of how well it lasted blew my mind. I mean, it really responded and didn't slow down. You can even see that I still have tons of apps open, and there is absolutely no slowdown on this phone whatsoever. One of the things I didn't write down that I just thought about was I was actually having this slight nuisance towards this. Is like if I go down to the notification center, sometimes I'll go down and I'll accidentally hit the multitasking button, and that's a little bit like, I don't even know what to describe that as. It's okay, but that I wish that when you pull this down that it didn't think, oh, you're hitting that, you're not trying to get into that. But anyway, I am a fan of physical home buttons. I just don't like software-based home buttons, the haptic style ones where you click into something, you have to touch it and make it work. I had the biggest struggle with doing that throughout the week.
But that is a preference.
That's a preference. That's me. I like physical buttons on my device for that kind of stuff. The keyboard on this model is great, except for I think it was a little bit cumbersome because I was always misspelling words, and not always was it actually correcting my misspellings. I think that they could probably fix that with a software update.
Or you can just install another keyboard.
Or yeah, you can do another keyboard. But I also turned off the feature of it vibrating on every key press. I think that's a battery hog in my opinion, but still, you got a 3,000 milliamp hour battery, so it wasn't bad. I did turn that feature off, so I didn't have to worry about it. Walking in direct sunlight with this particular model, no. I had to cover it like this several times when I was walking in order to see the screen in direct sunlight, because the screen, I just couldn't see it very well. So
the brightness definitely is not up to par with what you see on some flagship models, but once again, this phone is $150. It does have a 1080p screen using IPS technology, but it's just not up to par when you compare the quality with, I'm going to bring my phone here, and I'll show you the difference.
So right now, this phone is all the way up from what I can tell, but you can easily tell that the brightness between the two, it's definitely not as bright as the Pro 3.
But the Pro 3 costs $300, the S3 costs $150, so it's apparent that they're using a lower quality display for the cheaper phone, which is not a surprise. Of course they are.
Now, I don't know how many of y'all use Bluetooth a lot. Me, I use mine daily, day in and day out. I have Bluetooth stereo in my cars. I have the connection for it and everything, and I don't know if it was the connection, if it's the chip. I don't know exactly what was going on, but whenever I was listening to Pandora or my music or streaming something on my car, I would notice that it would like kind of have a cut effect. Like it would be like singing for a second, it would stop for a split second and then continue singing, and I hear that at least 2 or 3 times per song. I don't know if it's a degrade in the audio. I don't know what exactly it is. And obviously with this one, without the dongle in my car, I can't just connect into the aux for it, but that's a drawback on mine.
And that might just be something with your car, or it could just be the specific model, or because one thing I could mention from using the Pro 3 while Patrick was using the S3 was I haven't had any Bluetooth issues at all with my Pro 3, so it may just be a lower quality chip in this phone, or it could just be an issue with Patrick's Bluetooth devices.
Now,
it's hard to say.
Stepping back from the from my con list of the drawbacks of this phone, I do have very positive feedback for a lot of it. First off, I really, really, really wish Apple would take a hint from Android and allow you to be able to put your icons wherever you want on the screen. You cannot do this on iPhone unless you do workarounds, which are a pain in the butt.
And it's nice to be able to actually see your desktop screen picture.
Yeah,
you know?
I like being able to see my wife in my background and my kid. Hence, I have, yeah, you get it. That is just amazing, and the factor that it's like one click to change things is awesome.
The fact that you can change anything you want.
Exactly. It highly customizable, and Android has always been like that, and I love it. I really wish that iPhone, or Apple for that matter, would open up customization, but I never see that happening. As Frankie stated on her phone, Touch ID on the back, not bad. It actually responds very rapidly, and the good thing is unlike the iPhone where you have to lift it up and it turns on the screen, you can have it in any angle you want. Touch it, and it comes on.
And I don't know of any $150 Android phone that has that. Has Touch ID, period. They don't call it Touch ID, but for the sake of simplicity, let's just say it's Touch ID.
I mean, it's like maybe a second and a half of a delay, and it kicks it on.
It's not as fast. It doesn't appear to be as fast as the Pro 3 sensor, but once again, the fact that this thing even has a sensor is amazing for its price point.
Now, don't get me wrong, iPhone having it on the front isn't bad. I mean, having two separate sensors at that point for Touch ID in the back and physical home button on the front would be a drawback on an iPhone if it went that route, which I don't ever see going that route. Would be interesting, but I still prefer my physical home button on the front, and I just activated Google. Now, the ability to have non-App Store apps on the phone, being able to sideload stuff if you really want to without having the restrictions like Apple has set in place is awesome. That is, like, for instance, I'll give you an instance, the Amazon App Store app, if you wanted to put that on the phone, you can. You aren't stopped by Apple saying, oh, no, we don't want that on the phone, so you can't put that on there, and it's not authorized, so you can't run it even if you do get it on there. You can put it on there. I do have a couple things that I tried out on that, but I won't get into that. Now, the factor that this phone has 3 gigs of RAM makes this thing streamlined. It is fast, like I said earlier, and it can. I have not managed to slow this thing down at all. I open up Pokemon, I open up Waze, anything, and it just kicks butt. It's fast, and this thing is giving me dialogues, and I can open up anything I need to get it to running in a matter of seconds.
And no slowdown after a whole week of using it and installing all your apps. And one thing we do want to mention is the included Snapdragon 652 processor is faster than the old 808 Snapdragon processor. It's the 652 processor included in here is going to be lightning fast. You can't really notice too much of a difference between the previous Snapdragon processor that was in the flagship phones. So at this price point, this is definitely the fastest phone you're going to find for probably under $300. And this phone, well, with the exception of its big brother, the Pro 3, which is $300. Like I said, this is an amazing bargain of a phone for what you get hardware-wise. And I would say that this, if you need a cheap phone for yourself, for your parent, for your child, this is the phone to buy if you need a cheap phone at this point. You cannot find a phone with this build quality, with the features, with the processor, the RAM, the battery. For $150, you're not going to find it. This is the new king of budget phones, in my opinion.
Now, I will state that I did not try headphones or anything like that on this thing because I have Bluetooth headphones. I don't think I tested my Bluetooth headphones on them, but I probably don't need to because Frankie did hers and they worked great. I loved the factor that this thing can charge in 90 minutes. Like, I tested that theory out once. I drawed it all the way down to pretty much like 1% battery life and plugged it in. and before I even went to bed, it was fully charged. And I'm like, wow, that is like phenomenal. My phone, my iPhone 6s Plus doesn't even do that. Like I've got an actual backup power bear case for it to keep it charged if I start running low on power. Um, I didn't obviously test the adapter for the USB-C to headphone jack because I don't have headphones like that. But otherwise, I mean, for what it is, this phone is phenomenal. It runs great. It's not slow whatsoever. It pushes everything perfectly. And I only have those couple of gripes towards it. So, like I said, I started having like mixed feelings towards it when I was playing with my iPhone and this phone, like the buttons wise. But when I was starting to hit buttons on my phone, thinking, "Oh wait, the button's up here, not down here," then I was realizing my brain was switching over.
It's a force of habit.
Yeah, it just started switching, and I'm like, "Oh, well, I guess brain's learning on it." But otherwise, it's a great phone for the price, and I think that they are on the right track. And this phone doesn't have NFC on it. The Pro 3 does, but honestly, I don't see myself using the NFC, so it doesn't matter. The milliamp hour battery life was perfect, great, and I loved it, and it lasted. So that was a huge thing because I'm on my phone day and night. Before I go to bed, right when I wake up, it's got my alarms and everything.
For the final thoughts, though, I think that the main point, and we keep going back to this, is the price. Normally the phone is $249.99. However, once a week they're on sale for $149.99. Now at $249.99, this is a bargain. At $149.99, it's a no-brainer. This phone outperforms the Motorola G, which costs more. It outperforms the Motorola X even, which costs, I believe, even though they discontinued it, you can still buy them for about, I believe, $300. So, like I said, at $150, you cannot go wrong. One thing we did not mention is, unlike its big brother, the Pro 3, I just noticed, I want to mention it before we end the video, this only has a single speaker. However, the single speaker has great quality, crystal clear quality, so...
It is very loud. I tested that out too. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
Oh, and I also decided to, I forgot about this. I tested out the IR blaster, and being able to turn on my TVs from my phone, I was like, now that I'm going back to my iPhone, I'm going to go buy an IR blaster. Hopefully it's a decently good build quality. And I thought that was like phenomenal that I was able to use my Apple TV on this, my actual TV on this, and be able to control various different aspects of it. So I will be sad to not be able to use this, and hopefully I get one for my phone to work without having to pay too much money on it. But that was actually an unexpected twist to liking this phone even a little bit more than my original thoughts towards it. So it's a great phone. It's an amazing price. It's got great specs. And
build quality is amazing.
The build quality is amazing. I mean, this thing is light, pretty much doesn't change any factor towards my iPhone, and I like it.
It's a good compromise, and if money's not an option, however, if money's not really a problem, I would say pay the $299 and get the Pro 3, because the Pro 3 is like the complete package. It is the flagship device, the big brother to this phone, and you have even... It improves on it in every aspect, but it is double the price. Or better yet, you could buy both and still have about $300 left over in comparison to buying, the latest Samsung phone.
Even the latest iPhone 7 Plus costs what, $900?
No, I believe it's $769 for half the storage of the Pro 3. So I don't want to get too much into the Pro 3 as this is the S3 review, but at $150, this thing competes against a lot of $500 phones, and even gives some of the features on the 700 plus phones a run for their money. So it's amazing, and you can't go wrong with either device. In my opinion, though, I would say get the Pro 3 over the S3. Any other thoughts?
I think that wraps it up. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and leave them in the thread, and we will gladly answer them. This is Tech Ninja signing off.